Travis knows now. I've tried out there and I could stay there from like Friday to Sunday night.
Yeah, it's something I want to do. Is spend a weekend at the track. I've never done that. And I love it.
It's a different place after it's been down.
I bet it is.
People were camping and stuff.
It's a good time.
Like every. Yeah. Yep, it's a good time.
Cool. Well, there's no reason to sit and delay this any longer. We are recording this time.
We're recording right now.
Right now.
Okay.
We're live.
Cool. All right.
Kinda.
Live enough, yeah.
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 Loud.
So, everyone, welcome to the Performance Perception Podcast. Or, as Dwight likes to call it,
It's a talk show.
It's a talk show. It's not an actual podcast.
Just
Even
there's
though
no
it's-
reason behind it. It's just because I want it to be called a talk show.
Yeah.
I like it too.
So it's a talk show on podcast platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Like,
So,
why can't it be called a talk show? Like, why do they have to be called a podcast?
because that's what it is.
But why can't it just be called a talk show?
Because they don't have talk show websites. Maybe they do. I don't know.
Well, podcast is like a fictional word based off of like iPods. So
I don't know whose throat made that noise, but it came through like crystal clear.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh, that's good stuff there.
that is a great microphone I got there. You can hear everything. But
But back to that, yeah.
yeah. So again, the show's called Performance Perceptions. And what it is, a show about where we're gonna take books about performance, upgrades, tricks, tips, all that stuff for your vehicles.
Yeah, there's a whole world now that I believe has just gone outdated with technology. There's a whole world of books out there of people that are just brilliant with anything automotive, and there's so many published that there's so much information out there that. And specifically, it's like the old time tips and tricks that like people nowadays might not even notice or like know. So you aren't going to find that stuff on the internet, basically. And a lot of these old books, they'll just tell you so much more than what you can find on the internet, I think.
Or even on some of the videos.
Yeah.
Like some of the videos you can find on YouTube don't even go as far into depth as these do.
Yeah, and the good thing about a book is like whenever you're reading a book, the battery isn't going to die. So whenever you're rebuilding your small block Chevy, if your phone can die doing that, your books, the only thing that's going to happen is you might get tired, but like you can still read when you're tired.
Yeah, until you fall asleep.
Yeah.
That happened to me when I was first reading this book. I fell asleep on the couch trying to read it.
But yeah, the idea behind it is we're gonna take these books and we'll read. It might be the whole book. It might be
Just certain chapters.
A certain chapter section of the book, and it's just gonna be what we get out of the book. We're gonna be talking about them. It's not gonna be verbatim. Some of the information that we might pull out might not be 100% accurate because of the way we perceive that information.
Right.
And that goes into the title of the podcast, Performance Perceptions. And what that basically is, it's just how we take this information and like we get it in our heads, and we're just going to reiterate basically like how we understood what we read.
Exactly.
And honestly, I think it's a fairly fun thing. I don't know about any of you guys, but I enjoy reading that stuff.
Me too.
I can say like not all the time I understand what I read, so it sort of goes back to like we might not pick up exactly what they mean. What we say might be wrong, but we're not professionals. None of us are.
Nope.
We're just hobbyists, enthusiasts. Like this is what we enjoy doing.
Part-timers.
Yep. None of us make money doing this. Like
Yeah.
we're
Let's be clear on that. Like, we are not pros, so
yeah.
like take any of this information at your own risk. And
Yeah.
if even better, if you find what we're doing interesting, go and purchase the book on your Kindle, buy the book itself, and give it a read yourself, because like we find them interesting. I've got a whole cart lined up on Amazon Book Outlet of these kinds of books, and there's just so many of them, and they're all good. Like, there's a reason that they're out there, and if the rest of them are anything like this book, somebody spent literally their whole life doing what they were doing and then wrote a book about it.
Yeah,
like-
doing it in the time.
So like
that it's actually
anybody that
Yeah.
anybody that took that time to like write a book obviously had information that was worth sharing. Like, you're not going to get bad information out of a book, I'd say.
Yeah, and you know, you could probably find 3 or 4 of the same book, meaning like the same topic but by different authors,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
all of them may say something different, but I guarantee there
None
are
of it's bad information.
yes. So, with that said, we hope y'all find this interesting. If not, that's fine too. We're doing this for us, and we would like y'all to join us and, you know, hang out with us and, you know, come along in our little journey that we're trying out here. But again, this is for us, so, you know, if you don't like it, that's fine. No big deal. But we are going to put these out here because this is just something we've been talking about doing for a while.
Yeah,
so.
we had thought, you know, maybe it's something fun to do. I mean, Travis, you know, over here, I mean, he has a history and a little bit of recording stuff, and, you know, it seemed like something fun to do. So we're just doing this because we thought it would be fun. If you guys like it, cool. Like, if you can pick something up out of it, you know, that's even better. If you guys don't like it, well, we're still going to do it.
Yeah, and like
So-
I spent like 4 or 5 hours building a table out of scrap wood I had down back, just because of how excited I was about this. I built a table from scratch off of 2 measurements and a crappy half-assed drawing that I made on a piece of scratch paper. So like this
And
has
you're not a
happened.
carpenter.
No, and I'm not a carpenter.
Yeah,
And it's a pretty
got
darn
so
sturdy
excited that
table.
You just gained a skill.
Yeah,
I like this table.
I
Like,
really did.
yeah, like that.
And it's
I mean,
made out of
really
old-
impressive.
It's made out of old barn boards, and they're all the same boards too, like, which I found impressive out of the whole
Yeah, it really
pile of
is.
them that I got down there.
And like, for as much as my arms are laying on it, you know, I didn't get splinters out of it. That's pretty cool.
Well, they're old and weathered, and they were pressure treated at one point, I'm sure, but they're not anymore. So like, it's pretty soft. I broke a bunch of them trying to screw them together because I used some $high high performance screws. But either way, I built this table, so we're gonna use it for this.
Yeah.
So won't
Yeah,
you join
it's-
us?
Yeah, yeah. Have fun with it. If you can pull something from it, awesome.
Yeah,
But like we
and-
said, you know, if even if we say something wrong out of this, like if we pull some kind of information out of this, we say something wrong, like, we're not professional. You can bust our balls. We aren't gonna care.
Yeah.
But like, if so we're gonna cover stuff in this, this podcast isn't gonna be everything that we're interested in. We're gonna cover things that like we haven't necessarily like
Dove into. Yeah.
dove into, like things we don't know a lot about. Like myself and Travis, we both have an interest in airplanes. I don't know if you have any kind of interest in airplanes.
His
Tyler.
dad's an airplane mechanic.
Yeah,
Oh,
nice.
well, that's cool. My dad actually was in the service.
Yeah, nice.
But neither one of us really know anything about airplanes, and who knows, maybe one of these days we'll pull, you know, some kind of airplane, but I'm sure they have them.
Well, I would love to do a book on aerodynamics.
Yeah,
and
aerodynamic-
airplanes pretty much wrote that book.
Yeah, it's in the name of an airplane. Airplane. So, like, we're going to be talking about stuff that we know nothing about.
Yep.
Sometimes we might know a little bit about what we're talking about. Sometimes we'll know nothing.
And we can make educated guesses too. That's one thing I will say out of the group of us. If there's
Yeah.
something we don't know, we probably have an idea what we're doing, even if we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, so I can guarantee at some point in time somebody's going to say something that's not correct. You can bust our balls, like,
And that's
go
fine. Like
ahead.
if we say
and that's-
something wrong, please, correct us. Like, let
Yeah.
us know, and so we can learn from it. Like, that's the
Yeah,
biggest part of
exactly.
this whole deal. Is like, this is supposed to be fun, but also informational.
Yeah, and you're not going to all the time get correct information from us. If you find something that we messed up, tell us.
Yep.
You know, it's
And
we aren't going to get upset about it. You know?
so this first one, the first couple maybe until I get it figured out, it's just going to be audio. And we're going to throw it up on YouTube and anywhere else I can get it onto. I'm going to have to get a hosting site and stuff, which I've talked to you guys about. But
Yep.
what we are going to end up soon having video footage of this, because there's like 2 ways of that podcast seem to go for me anyways. And I've talked to a few people, and you got people that just listen to them like on their commute or while they're sitting at home piddling, doing whatever, they're at work. And then you got people that sit and watch them. Like,
like a talk show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
So-
fun to watch them.
It is. It adds another aspect to the whole conversation.
I like seeing who's talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can put like a face with who's talking, I think that like adds another aspect
Yep.
to it.
Yeah, especially and like it'll be fun for those who know us, like they already know. But for the ones that don't, and if they start from the beginning, they'll hear what we sound like, and then when they'll see a video and be like, "Man, that is not what I thought they looked like." But
I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I'm just gonna laugh.
it's hard to say because I know sometimes I've listened to podcasts and then found the people that are doing the podcast. I'm like, wow, that is not what I thought they would have looked like.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
yeah, at some point there's gonna be video along with it, which I think's nifty. You know, I completely agree with Tyler on that. Like, I like to see the people that are talking.
So with that, my name's Travis. My co-host is,
Dwight Scheller.
and then our co-host to the co-host is,
I'm Tyler.
and Tyler is our musician friend and / mechanic. And in the beginning of the podcast, you would have heard a sweet little guitar ditty, and that was played in studio here at the beginning of this. And we're gonna,
Yeah, completely off the cuff.
Yeah,
the dude is an
that's-
incredible musician.
Yep.
Like,
that's how I think how we're gonna do every beginning and end of these is just have him whip the guitar out and let her rip.
yeah, it may even be like show to show. Like,
Yeah.
they all.
I think they should differ. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Depending on where we're at. You know, if we take this setup somewhere else and want to do a podcast somewhere else, you can just find some music, you know, that fits where we're at.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah. And I used to be a musician myself, so like I'm all about that. And Dwight is kind of a musician. He just doesn't know it
He
yet.
doesn't know it
He's
yet.
a drummer, but he just has yet to buy a drum
I
set.
can't wait to watch.
I know. I can't wait to see him blossom into a drummer.
This is actually going to turn
Me-
into a band.
I mean, I'm not going to say I wouldn't look forward to me being a drummer. Like,
Trust me,
I
it's,
agree with you guys. Like,
it's
I
real.
Can't wait for it
It's
either,
fun
but,
when
like,
you're doing it. Like
Yeah.
while you're playing drums, everything before and after drums sucks. Nobody helps you carry your stuff to the stage. No one else helps you set it all up. No one helps you tear it all down and carry it back to the vehicles.
Yeah, man,
it's
that's
terrible.
all you.
Yeah, yeah. And you being a guitar player, you're like, no, bro, I got my
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
You're
all
on your
you.
own.
Yeah, I got my cord and my guitar
And my amp.
my mic,
Yeah.
And my amp that rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and probably not
Did
even
you
a
help me
mic,
carry
like-
it up the stairs?
Hey, man, I know you're busy packing your drums up, but can you help me carry this up the stairs quick? Thanks. All right, I'll see you later.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. But anyways, so we got a little bit of a structure here. This is going to be a very informal podcast, or as Dwight has written on our board, non-formal.
You know what? I just sometimes I just write things as they come into my head.
Hey, man, we knew what you meant.
Yeah,
It's
definitely
all
knew.
good. But it's going to be informal. We are going to try to keep some sort of a schedule or a structure. That way we don't do 3 hours like our little pre-run that we did.
that was a good time.
Yeah,
we did
it
a
was-
little pre-run on this just to make sure that we were capable of being able to continue talking and keep it somewhat interesting.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, interesting enough for us, and that's
Yeah.
all that really matters.
yeah, and who knows if this is interesting to anybody
Yeah.
else, but it is for us. Like,
Yep.
we have a good time doing it.
And this is essentially, think of a campfire or, truck bed, whatever you and your friends will stand around and drink a beer or whatever liquid or substance you like to hang out with. And just picture yourself standing in the circle with us, just hanging out. That's essentially what we're doing here. There's just microphones and computers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm still drinking.
yeah, me too. We got this sweet little margarita mix thing going on. And
That's that would see if they had a picture to go with this like the sound right now.
Mm-hmm.
They'd see margarita and they'd be like,
yeah, but then they also
you guys
see the
don't fit margaritas.
exactly, and then they'll see the Mountain Dew can and the Miller Lite cans. Well, actually, Miller High Life. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's high life.
That's
Champagne of beers.
yeah, dude. That's good. A full day of baling hay. That's good beer after that. If it's been on ice all day, you finish
Oh, yeah.
baling hay. That's perfect.
Yeah, other than the fact of, like, being dehydrated from sweating all day, like
don't
the
even-
carbs will do you a little bit
Yeah,
of good.
you don't even care. It just tastes so good. So, anyways, we are doing this for us, as we said, and this podcast is probably going to be just about anything automotive, but I'm going to go ahead and throw a disclaimer out that we might have a automotive subject to talk about, and it may only cover 15 minutes.
Yeah, so a lot of this is just going to be conversation between three friends.
Yeah, and that are heavily influenced and involved in automotive culture, so to speak.
Yeah, it's not going to venture too far from it, but the general idea of it, I mean, be kind of realistic about this. Nobody's going to want to listen to a podcast about a book, like just
Unless you're
forever.
that kind of person, but
yeah,
like there are those podcasts that are
Like,
just specifically book reviews.
it's
This is
our-
not that.
yeah. I mean, this is our podcast, and if all we did was like talk about a book the whole time, like I don't think I'd listen to it.
Yeah, me
Tell you
neither.
the truth.
I wouldn't even listen back through it.
No,
You know what I mean?
yeah, 'cause-
Which
but if that's your thing, like, hey, good for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not us. So like, it's gonna be kind of freelance through a lot of it.
yeah,
But
and
we are gonna cover the information.
we're gonna cover the information.
It's just gonna be a little haphazard.
And yes, that's a good way to put it. And there's going to be some good stories, and a lot of laughing and carrying on, and a lot of it may not even make any sense to anybody, and that's part of the fun.
And to anybody that may be listening to I'm sure being our first podcast, like, you know, we're probably gonna be the only ones listening to it.
Well,
It's gonna have 3 views.
there's going to
But,
be I'm going to make an Instagram and stuff, so like our friends and stuff will find it. But
Yeah, but to anybody that may not actually know us, this first podcast isn't gonna have much involved with it. It's basically just gonna be us. You know, if you don't know us, like, you'll get to know us a little bit, I guess.
and we hope you do.
Yeah. And
I feel like we're pretty easy to get along with.
Oh yeah.
and that's Tyler.
And that's Tyler. He's just
That's all I got to say about the
he's
man.
just hanging out, man.
Yep, he's easy to get along with.
Yep. So, just to add a little background for people who don't know, Dwight and I met about 4 years ago at a racetrack.
A dirt track.
At a dirt track. It was my first legitimate race that I didn't make it more than 4 laps into the practice laps because my engine blew up. My bass player at the time, he
In your band.
yeah, in the band that I was in, he said he was bringing his sister's boyfriend along because he needed to get out of the house. He said that his dad just died, and I was like, all right, man, yeah, that's cool, bring him out. He was, telling me that this guy Dwight, he's real good with cars and he's got hot rods and he's a drag racer. I'm like, man, it sounds like somebody I can hang out with and like screw off with. And he showed up. And I'm sitting there eating chicken fingers, looking at my car that's broke. My brother and his buddy are.
And you had that look about you too.
What's
like-
that?
Like, you just had that look of like, my car just broke. I'm just gonna eat now.
Oh yeah, I was like, "There's nothing I can do. It's broke. I'm just gonna eat chicken fingers and stare at it." And and they were good
I'm gonna
too.
go home now.
Yeah. And Dwight comes up. He's like, "Hey, you mind if I take a look at it?" And I'm like, "Dude, if you know what you're doing, go for it." And he had a Chevy hat on, so I just kind of hoped he did, and I just told it he knew what he was doing. He went over and he started tinkering with it,
And
and
at the time, I didn't know that this car was blown up. I just thought like they were having problems with it running right.
yeah, and that's all I said. I was like, "If you know what you're doing, go for it." And I just kept stuffing my face with chicken fingers and French fries, and they're from a dirt track, so they're pretty good just about every time.
Yeah, most racetrack food's just incredible.
Yeah, and so he's over there tinkering with it. He fires her up, and this was after we changed starters. Like, we got a brand new starter because we thought the starter went bad, but I'm pretty sure it was just like the motor was locking up because it spun a bearing or 5.
It was definitely locking up.
But after it cooled down, because I cooked it like as hot as the sun, just trying to get it off the racetrack, and then coasted it to the truck, and he got it running, and it's running better and better the more he tinkers with it, and it runs really good, but it's knocking really bad at this point. And he was like, "Yeah, man, like you could try running it, but it's broke." And I was
And like through this whole time, this is how like little we actually like spoke to each other. Like, I just kind of showed up and started messing with his car. Like, I didn't know that like his car was blowing up. So
Yeah.
like I thought that it was just in that condition whenever he brought it there. Like I just thought he couldn't get it to run right. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, if that's the way you've been running it, then well, maybe give her a try again. But I don't think it's that good.
Yeah, no.
Like I didn't know you. Like I didn't want to like tell you that like you brought a hunk of crap, but like it wasn't whenever you took it there.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
and that's what sucks. That thing ran really good. But anyways, so after that, I got a hold of him on Facebook a week or two later, and we got to talking. I said to him I had an old Chevelle that I was trying to bring back to life. I didn't know if he'd be interested in helping and hanging out, and I told him, my mom was sick and everything, and I was kind of dealing with similar stuff that he had just gone through. So I was asking him questions and that sort of deal, and we just became friends. He came over one day, and we were talking online about, I'd like to open the motor up on the Chevelle and make it run a little better. And he's like, well, I got a couple intakes I'll bring over. And he brought a big old single plane over that I wanted to put on, and he told me it wasn't going to work, or it shouldn't work anyways.
Yeah, it shouldn't work.
And I said, yeah, that makes sense, but let's put it on anyways. And it just happened to
it's a bone
work
stock motor that we put an Edelbrock Victor Jr. on.
with a 600 CFM Edelbrock carburetor at the time, and it ran awesome. That old motor, that car sat for 40 years, and that thing ran like a rape date. That thing just ripped. It just took it. It just kept taking it and taking it and taking it and taking it. And we just continued to spend more time together and hang out. And like, we just happened to have a bunch of interests that were very similar.
Yeah, and we didn't live far apart either.
No.
I think the biggest reason that like we probably never really did meet is like, we have a little bit of an age gap. I think I'm like 4 years older than you, maybe. Tell you the truth, I'm not even really sure how old you are, to tell you the truth. I'm 29.
Me too.
Three
You're
years.
29 also.
Yeah, 3 years, because I'm 26.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 years.
Well,
Yeah,
I've
so,
always
like-
gotten along better with people that weren't my age, that they were
Yeah.
older than me.
Yeah. But like given our ages at the time, like like a lot still at that time, a lot of the people that I knew were like sort of people like from my area. We went to different schools and we had a little bit of an age gap. So I don't think we just ever like had that opportunity to
Right.
like meet before that. But,
Well, and what's funny is like I knew a bunch of people you knew, and you knew a bunch of people I knew, but we just never met.
yeah.
And it's just funny how that happened.
And then you had met Tyler here from somewhere that you had previously worked.
Yeah. My boss was at the time was looking to hire like somebody to kind of do oil changes and stuff and pick up some of the slack so we can get working on some project cars and stuff that we're trying to do, custom stuff. And he brought in like two or three kids that were, they just wanted to say they worked at a custom shop kind of deal, and they didn't have any skills, nor did they really care. They couldn't wash a car properly.
And you know what, like, though, good on your boss for at least like trying that. Like
Yeah, no
at
doubt.
least like trying to give the kids a shot to see if they.
Well, it just
were-
bummed
were
me
worth
out because
anything.
like these kids would tell him, one specifically told him that I did all this work to my car, and I did all of it by myself, and that just wasn't the case. He didn't do any of it. He had friends that worked on his car for him, and I asked him to wash a rental vehicle that we were doing at the time, and I told him to do this, and he did one of those things in 8 hours. And it was after that day I said to him, I was like, man, this is not going to work. I said, you got to find somebody with a resume. And old Tyler here, I don't even know how you got hooked up. Did you find something online?
Yeah, I saw something hiring. Like I had just bought my first motorcycle.
Yeah.
And so I was like trying to work on bikes. Well, I was working diesels, and COVID happened, and we got really slow at the place I was working. And so I saw an ad. This guy was hiring a motorcycle mechanic. I was like, I'll figure this out. And I met Travis
And
there.
if there's anybody that has that ability, like you're a very intelligent
Oh,
person.
yeah.
I'll
You can,
figure it out.
like your talent for figuring things out, like on the fly and like holding information is impressive.
Yep.
Well, thanks. So I met Travis there, and I didn't meet Dwight yet, but I heard about him. And Travis was like, "We're gonna go up to the drag strip this day. You should come."
Oh yeah, and
And,
I ended up not being able to go.
Yeah. So I'm like, 6 in the morning. I wake up, I start driving out to Beaver Springs, and no word from Travis. I don't know if I don't have any service. Travis was probably drinking till the time I was about to leave.
Yeah, so I was at a wedding
Yeah.
the day
Oh, no.
before, and
Yeah.
I stayed the night, and like we drank till 4:30 in the morning at the hotel after the reception,
And I
then
was like, this is my first friend that's not a musician, so I'm like trying to get to this drag strip.
well, that you knew of anyways, but it was like 7:30 in the morning, and I was like, I rode my bike down there, and it was like, I don't know, hour and a half away from the house, and I was just tired. I wasn't hungover, I was just tired. And I got back to the house, and I came home, and I just went to sleep, and then I woke up to like a million text messages from him, and I'm like, oh man, I feel so
But
bad.
it was cool because I hung out there, and like there's a lot of, I've been to some drag strips before. There's people camping, there's people with big, garage trailers with all their tools in it, and I see these guys pull up on an open air trailer with Dodge Dart called the Ornery Cuss, and they're smoking everybody. I'm like, who are these guys?
And it
Turns out
was
it's Dwight.
Mr. Dwight Shelley.
That was a
That's-
sick
and
day. It was like
that is
100
not-
degrees.
It is not my car though. The guy that actually owns that car, he turned 80 years old last year, and he had a couple health issues going on, and it just turned into a little bit too much for him to be able to drive the car, and he had gotten a hold of me about driving that car for him, and he knew that I had drag raced there for a long time with my own stuff, and he asked if I wanted to drive it, and the thing is with that car, he built that car in like the 80s and had raced it at Beaver Springs since 1989. So that was like 2 years before I was ever born. So that car is always that car's been around longer than me.
Wow.
So that I've always remembered it, and like to have the chance to drive the car, I was like, if you think I can do it, then yeah, you know what, I'll give her a shot.
I remember the day that Dwight got that phone call and he talked to the guy. I think you talked to him at the track, didn't you? Like you went up to get like fuel or
No,
something.
he actually messaged me on Facebook.
Oh, I thought you saw him at the track and he said something to you about it, and then like he got a hold of you
No.
later.
No, he
Either
messaged
way-
me on
I
Facebook.
almost went off of a hunch like that's got to be Travis's friends. Like those guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
cool.
Because I only have the coolest
I didn't
friends.
say anything to him.
But no, I was sitting on the chair, on my big old comfy chair here one evening, and it was, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, somewhere around there. And Dwight calls me. He's like, dude, I just got the chance of a lifetime. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, so you remember this guy I was telling you about? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, he just asked me to drive his car. Like, hire me to drive his car. And I thought that just speaks to how good Dwight is at what he does.
Yeah, Dwight's the man.
I put him in my bone stock piece of crap Mustang, and like the whole internet was saying bone stock piece of crap 2000 Mustangs with a 4.65 speed were running 15s. He made that car run a 14.8 and spanked a brand new Dodge Challenger while doing it on his first run in the car. Like, so for an old feller to have been racing that car since 89 to just come up to Dwight and be like, hey man, I want you to drive my car. That just speaks to how good Dwight is at what he does. And Dwight's sitting here like just looking down at the floor. He is about the most humble person I've ever met in my
I
life.
agree. Bad dude.
He is bad man. Bad man.
The way I look at it is like, you can always be better. So like, if you ever consider yourself good, you're just plateauing.
Oh yeah. And there's
Like-
always somebody better. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter in what aspect in life, there's always somebody better.
Yeah. So like, you're never necessarily like good at anything. There's always going to be somebody that will prove you different. And believe me, every weekend I race, there's people that prove me very different. Like
Well-
if I ever think I'm good, like somebody's just going to come up and lay one on me that to show me like, hey, I'm definitely better.
Dwight is also leaving out the fact that he hasn't really, up until this point last year, he hadn't really drag raced in, 5 years?
Yeah, something like that. I was just at that point in my life where, I was moving out from home and stuff like that, and I was trying to do the responsible thing, put money where it needed to be. I didn't necessarily need to be racing at the time, so I didn't. And my C10, which is my drag vehicle, it's all street legal, but I drag raced it every weekend. That had recently broken, so like it was going to take some money to get back into it, so I just left it sit. And then from that point, like I had things in life happen, and it put it back a little bit, and then I basically just jumped right back into it with driving this guy's car. And this guy that owns the cars, like we can't have one podcast on this guy. This guy is full of stories.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
he's just one of those guys that like you can sit down and he can tell you stories and you never get tired of it.
I can talk to him for 5 minutes and he'll tell me one really good story just in 5 minutes of just like, I mean, while there's cars ripping down across the track, he'll be like, this one time, and he'll tell me this story. And Dwight's sitting in the staging lanes and Will's just standing there talking to me, telling me these stories, and dude, they're just the coolest things. So one of the things that I want everyone to know is I'm planning on having special guests. Whether it be, I'd like to get some drivers in here. I'd like to get some builders in here. Whoever we can get that has an aspect on some form of automotive.
Or
if it's just somebody.
Maybe if you just want to come and hang out and like you think you might have something fun to add. Like,
absolutely. So special guests will definitely be part of this whole deal. And at that point, we'll end up just basing the podcast off of them. We won't do an informational section on the book that we're reading or anything like that. This is about them and what they're doing and their story.
Well, and I feel like that's just important to the podcast too, because you can't do the same thing over and over. I don't think.
Yep, there's got to be some difference. I mean, some continuity is good, but like that's when things get stale.
Yeah.
So, and that's the nice thing about this being informal is like I don't think it can get stale.
No, we just
we
do
talk
what we want.
Yeah, I do what I want. Yeah, baby. I mean,
we can make this podcast go while we rip that burnout out there. Like,
I think we probably could.
Get that power inverter. Let's hook it up under there.
Hey, I'll stick the microphones out the windows.
Yeah,
I'm in.
I gotta get home with it. Misfire.
You can borrow my bike.
Okay. Deal.
The funny part is like both of you are like ecstatic about that. Like switching off like the bike for the like I can see you're excited about it. And I can see you're excited.
Right.
Yeah, but
why
like
don't you just do it for the fun of it?
But the El Camino will be blown up, so like I don't have no. There's just nothing for me. I'm just saying,
There's not
so
a
we
better
can
place for it to be blown up.
So we can just blow it up. I'll let him ride my bike back to his house so he can get home. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, I thought. All right, I missed something in that conversation.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to drive that El Camino around, but like I'm gonna have my own. So
I don't. Just so you have a little bit of a backstory here. I don't like El Caminos. I didn't
just recently fell in love with El Camino.
As in like 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I didn't think I liked El Caminos because like I never really had my hands on one. Like I never touched one. I was never up close to one. I still don't like the way they look.
He'll come
like a G body El Camino, like, which that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I don't like 4th gen Camaros either, but like I have one and I like hate to say it, but I love the car.
Oh yeah.
But like I also hate it. So like it doesn't mean anything that I don't like the El Camino, but like he where did I start with this? I just lost my spot. But like anyhow, Tyler just got this El Camino. And like I just found out today that like I like it. I got in the car, I sat in it, it's awesome. Oh, I know where I was going now. I love the fact that car is a 6-cylinder. Like
said nobody ever.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like if that car is a V8, I'd be like, man, look at that thing just trying to be a truck, but it's not. The fact that it's a 6-cylinder, I'm like, yeah, like look at that thing with that bed and the 6-cylinder. I bet you could abuse that thing so much and they'll just take it.
And I bought it from a 94-year-old man who bought it new.
That's awesome.
Man.
Like,
You're
could you
the
picture him
second owner.
driving? Yeah, I'm the second
That's
owner.
cool.
It's got 80,000 miles on it.
It looks like you'd be the second owner. It's a clean car, man. The one that I'm going to get, my brother Chris owned back in the day, and like that was probably what he sold it in 09, so
A while ago.
12 years ago.
yeah, like that's how long that car hasn't been around, and I'm pretty sure he hasn't even thought about that car since he sold it.
That's a shame.
And that was like his first hot rod car. Like he's never really had hot rod cars. His thing was always trucks. And to get this car back in my hands and to like make it run again and then just drive it over to his house the way that it looks now, because it don't look hardly any different than the day he got rid of it. It looks pretty much the same. It's just got a little more rust on it, but just to show up there, I think it'd be exciting. But we're trying to talk Dwight into buying one so we can be the three Musketeers, but with El Caminos instead of horses and swords.
It could just be the Three Musketeers, but with El Caminos.
The three Caminos.
Yeah, we need hats for them.
Hats?
Yeah, to keep in the car that we wear.
And,
Oh,
like,
I got a bunch
I'm
of
not-
those.
A nice leather hat.
I can tell you, I'm not 100% against an El Camino because, like, anytime I say I like an El Camino, somebody, like, everybody's like, oh, do you just hate, like, the car trucks or whatever they're called?
The Crux.
The Crux. And I'm like,
The
no, I
Tars.
don't hate those. Like, I'm not against that idea. Like, I like the Subaru Brats. I like,
So you like Utes. You just don't like El Camino lifestyle.
yeah, I didn't think I did, no.
It's a lifestyle.
And like the Dodge Rampages, like, I like them. Like,
They're just an El Camino. It's just with a Dodge badge on them and front wheel drive.
well, yeah, but for whatever reason, the El Camino is just like it never
didn't
spoke
hook
to
up.
me. Yeah.
It didn't hook up.
And then like I saw yours with the 6-cylinder in it, and I heard it, and it's like, and I'm like,
I
with
love it.
with a misfire.
yeah, and
That just
like,
developed
for
on
whatever
its way
reason,
here.
That one just like it came
spoke to
me.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like that's not 100% trying to be a truck. You know what I mean? Like that. It's like, why are you gonna have a car with the V8 in it that isn't like fully truck capable?
I know, yeah.
That like, you know, it's wants to be fast, but like yet it still wants to be a truck. Like that thing with the 6-cylinder in it. It's like, yep, we're just gonna
Just
be this
cruising.
car
We're
and
going
like
to get some ice cream.
and like take it on your own risk to fit as much stuff as you want in a bed. Like if it can move, like if this motor will pull it, we'll haul it. Like that, I like that about that car.
Cool.
But I will say, if it's like a Pro Street El Camino, like big fat tire dropped on the like, who's not gonna like that? Like
Yeah, they're-
I've never not been a fan of that. Let's just be clear. Except unless it's an old El Camino, those are it.
Like this one?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
like
dude, and I hate to say this, but like I don't like the 59 El Caminos like I like the 57 Ford Rancheros.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Chevy should have just made a 57 body styled El Camino and
That
they
gray
would have
one
just
there
been
is sick.
better off.
From
What,
Super Chevy.
this one?
Yeah, I've been looking at that one a lot.
65.
That one's cool. They got sexier as they went on, man.
Oh,
All the
yeah.
way up into the 80s.
Yep. And like I didn't really like G bodies to begin with. But the more I'm around them, the more I see them, the more I see people do with them, the more they grow on me, and I really do enjoy a nice G body. And
Now you like you put a Malibu in front of me, I'm all over it.
oh yeah.
Like I love.
Well, like here's the
Malibus.
thing though, Dwight. Look at this. Don't look here. Just look at the front of this.
That was
That's
awesome.
a Malibu.
Yes, it is.
So like, why do you hate the truck bed?
Because whenever you put the truck bed on it, it puts that bubble in the middle of the like. Now, you guys that are just listening to this because we don't have the video right now, you'd be able to see what I'm talking about. But like, the '59 El Camino that's in front of us, that has a flat roof. Like everything, it's all square. You get one of these G-body El Caminos, and like they put a bubble. Everybody drew these cars in kindergarten. And like it was like a brick that had a bubble on it where you sat, and like that's what I see whenever I look at a G-body El Camino. It's just like a square body with a bubble on top of it, and that's just what I never like. And that picture right there kind of shows what I'm talking about. And that like
What, this one?
yeah, I wish you guys that were
I
listening
know
could
what
see
you're
this,
saying.
but like that's
That's
just
a
what
Black Knight. Dude, these cars were super
That's a
rare.
sick car.
They had to change the name to
coming
that.
from an El Camino guy. I'm like, sorry.
Well, no, I just, well, I hate to say it, but like I just like watched a bunch of videos on them last night, of, like the history of El Camino. Donut Media has a really, really good one.
Yeah,
And
I
the-
like listening to their stuff.
Yeah, but the Black Knight El Camino was like this one. Like these cars are super rare because like I think the following year they had to change it to like the Royal Knight or
Knight.
something like that because of copyright infringement. Somebody owns
Oh, wow.
copyrights to Black Knight, and I'm not sure who or
Yeah.
why, but I'm not sure what was super special about these other than just the
I, don't
trim.
think,
but-
I think it was trim, yeah. Well, I have the manual since I bought this one, and there's like the SS Conquista stock.
This right here is a goal of mine.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
camper
that'd be
shell's out of control. It's
They make
awesome.
camper shells
Look at
for
that
El
one with the fifth
Caminos.
wheel.
This one,
Yeah, what the heck's going on there?
I think
That's
he's
insane.
got. That's not a fifth wheel. That is a truck camper
It's got an axle.
with an
Oh,
axle
yes.
under it because it
What
doesn't
he did
fit.
was made a tandem axle El Camino by the looks of it.
That's pretty cool.
Think that's got
and
the
like
V6 in it?
let's be clear, like I don't hate any car. It's just some I like more than others.
Except your truck right now. Oh, right here. Look at that. That's mint right there.
Oh,
That is a whole lot of weight on a little bitty car.
Now
out
see
of control.
how much, like if that had a V8 in it, you'd be like, yeah, it'll take it somewhere, but like how's it gonna handle it? Now if that had a V6 in it, you'd be impressed.
You're like, you're right.
If it worked.
You're right.
Yeah, that's what I like about yours. It's like, you know what, that
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
It's got like my daily. I drive a Ford Ranger, 4-cylinder.
oh, I had one of that.
And
Gutless
it's a
turds.
dog, you know,
Yeah.
but it's got more. It's probably got, I don't know, 20 more rated horsepower than this El Camino does in the small Gara with a V6, but it still pulls better. Like it pulls way better.
I had a '93 Ford Ranger with a 2.3 5-speed. It was 4-wheel drive.
That's what I got. I don't have four-wheel drive,
air quotes long bed for them. And it had 330,000 miles on it, and they weren't powerhouses new. And after 330,000 miles, I can tell you it didn't gain any power.
Yeah.
I would assume not.
That thing, but you know that was fun to drive, just
love my
because
little
like
Ranger.
you drove it wide open all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. So,
And there was no driving that one fast, just because it didn't do it. But
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Well, that's what I
it
mean.
would
Like,
feel like you'd be going fast.
yeah, that's what I mean. You drive a slow car as fast as it'll go, and you're
Yeah,
still doing
if
the
it's
speed limit.
75, you're like, all right, I better chill or something's gonna fall off of this thing.
Yeah, and like I think fun's a relative word too, because like you can get like you can get the adrenaline pump from going 20 mile an hour on like a drift trike.
Oh yeah.
Like the same
Oh, yeah.
adrenaline that
Yeah.
you could get from 180 in a drag car.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I'm sure it's a little different, but
yeah, it is. There's
still
a
a-
difference, yes, but like you still have the same amount of fun.
Yeah.
I think it's just a different feeling.
well, 20 mile an hour on a drift trike probably lasts longer than 180 in a drag car.
Yeah, yeah. So it's all relative.
Yeah. All right, so moving on here.
This is what we mean by non-formal.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
we're just gonna go on tangents, and hopefully y'all have fun listening to it. If not, that's fine. We don't mean to bore anybody, but we're having a good time, and like I said before, we hope y'all do too. So, next in line here on my list is on my structure for our first and ever introduction podcast. Here is I want to go around and ask 10 questions between all the hosts here. That way the audience can get to know us better, as well as maybe us get to know each other better. I think for Dwight and I, that's probably already done with, but Tyler's still kind of new to the whole group.
So all three of us wrote down 10 questions, and whoever wrote these questions is going to ask them, then the other two is going to answer them.
Yep.
And I mean, honestly,
I only have two
we'll probably the people
That's-
who wrote
that's
the
fine.
questions will probably throw in their input too. So.
Well, yeah, and I'm like, I feel like, like say if I ask you a question and you answer it, but then you want to know my answer to that question, that's
Yeah.
fine too.
Yeah, that's where it's gonna go. And honestly, I put an 11th one in there because a couple of my questions can be generic. So
Well, I only really got 9 questions because like my first question is like, what's your name? But we already know that now.
Okay.
So I only have 9.
I have 11 that took me like an hour.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So we're going to do the Know Your Podcast Host segment.
We need like a soundtrack
Bing,
for that now.
bing,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like some kind of fancy.
Oh man, I'm gonna get it together.
Yeah, we need a fourth person for this podcast just to run a soundboard.
Well, what I can do until we get that fourth person, which I asked Ray to be a part of this, and he said he was game, so maybe we can get him to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure he would.
Yeah.
He'd get into that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
could almost guarantee that.
Um,
Ray is my brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're married.
Yes, I am.
Man.
Going on 2 years now.
Jeez. Yeah.
Wouldn't change it.
Good.
No, I really wouldn't. She's good. She puts up with all of this.
Well, and you put up with all of her stuff, too, like puking in her car.
You know what? That's sometimes things just happen.
Sometimes you just got to puke in your damn car.
Yeah.
There's
I've
just
been
no
there.
other way to do it.
I've been there.
I think if anyone says that they haven't been there, it's because they haven't needed to be in that situation and they don't know that they need it. But once you do it, you're like, wow, man, I just feel so much better.
I didn't understand that, but you know what? I'm just agreeing with it because the way you said it, it just makes me want to agree with it.
I didn't get it either. I knew what I wanted to say. It just didn't come out that way. All right, so
And
I'm
those
going to...
popping sounds that you hear in the background, it is exactly what they sound like.
Yep.
Oh, yep. The high life.
That's what we're doing, living the high life. So I'm going to start off with my questions. So we already went over number 1, which was your name, obviously. So number 2, what was the very first thing that sparked your interest in cars that you can remember?
All right, so I can already see a problem with this. Some of our questions might overlap.
That's okay.
fine.
That's also one of mine.
Yeah,
Nobody's counting.
yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, you're right. That so
That wasn't 10. Blind bastard.
So,
Hey, you want to just check to see if we're recording?
yeah.
Like, we gave this a go here earlier. Like, something happened and we ended up not being recording. So, like, this is our second go at our first podcast.
I wish I could figure out how to make my computer stop, like, screening out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're still going. We're 46 minutes in, guys.
All right, good.
All right. So, number 2. What is the very first thing that sparked your interest in cars that you can remember?
Me?
Anyone?
Okay.
Yeah,
Both of you.
First.
Need for Speed.
The games?
Yes. PlayStation 1.
So the very first Need for
The
Speed.
very first Need for
Was
Speed.
it Hot Pursuit?
It
Yeah, I
came
think
with
it
the
was Hot
PlayStation
Pursuit.
1, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hot Pursuit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had
yellow
that
Lambo.
on computer.
I had it on
Wasn't it like the
PlayStation
main
2.
car, like your Pikachu was like a yellow Lambo?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, oh yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that,
and then there's
yeah.
like the Nazca whatever. There was a bunch of cool like supercars in that game.
Yeah, that was a sick game. You could still play it.
Oh yeah.
It's out there.
I have it. I have it on. It's a PS1 disc, but I played it on PS2.
That first track where you like race through that barn bridge and like
Yep.
it's like sunny.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And, like, the rolling ground had, like, the sharp angles on it because
Oh,
the
yeah.
graphics were so bad.
Yeah. Wow, that's a blast from the past. And that
Yeah.
I honestly was not expecting that answer.
Yeah.
I don't know
you
what I was
wasn't
expecting,
either.
but it was not that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can say the same thing.
I love that game.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
I tell you the truth, I can't necessarily say that like I have that one thing that
That
like,
stands out.
Yeah, that stands out. Because like I was born into it. Like my dad raced his whole life. He lived in North Carolina for a good part of his life whenever he was in the military. And down there, they street raced all the time. He moved up here, had me, and like my mom drag raced also. So like I was kind of born into it, but like if there's maybe one thing, there's two things that maybe like might just stick out that like sort of made me realize that like, hey, this is fun. My dad had a 70 Dodge Demon, and we live on a dirt road, and he was putting this car together. My mom's car was done. Car had a 400 big block in it, Chrysler. And we were on this dirt road, and I'm like sitting. It's a race car, like has a roll cage in it and stuff. And I'm probably 3, I'm guessing. And
This
he's
is how all
taking
good
us,
stories start right here.
and like we're going out the dirt road, and I'm sitting in the passenger side of this car on the metal floor because it's all gutted and stuff. And like he just does this burnout on the dirt road, and like I mean your tires will smoke on a dirt road.
Yep.
And like believe me, they did. So he did that, and like that's one of them that sticks out. And like I was, and I'm not even gonna give the other one because I know I was older. No, yeah, that's it. The other one was probably just like me driving for the first time, but I think the burnout was probably like the most influential because that's the first time I saw like any kind of flare out of it. So, yeah, probably that.
Mine was like I can't, like you said, necessarily narrow it down, but like there's like a few things that like definitely helped groom me into wanting to be a part of cars. And like everyone has, not everyone, but some people have this weird misconception that like I grew up doing hot rod stuff. I did not. I grew up riding four wheelers and dirt bikes and having go karts and stuff because my dad's a heavy equipment operator, and he used to bring the machines home, and we would build our tracks in the field with the machines. So like we grew up learning how to run heavy equipment and building these tracks and getting better riding four wheelers and stuff, and dirt bikes is what four wheelers turned into, and it all stemmed off a go kart though. There's a picture of me on a collage in the garage. Wow, that rhymes. There's a picture of me on a collage in the garage of me riding my brother Chris's go kart. It was a little 5 horsepower Craftsman thing, and I have a life preserver vest on and a helmet because I was so little, in case I fell out, like I wouldn't get punctured by anything. I don't know, like 3 or 4 years old, and that's where I started getting like the need for speed. You know what I mean? And I was like trying to hang the rear end of the go kart out, and as I recall saying was I was trying to hang it out like a sprint car, because I had seen sprint cars and like my dad's friends had race cars and stuff like that, but I didn't grow up doing it. But I think the one thing that got me really going is my brother. Well, both of them really, and their fast cars and trucks that they had. My brother Chris, he always had fast trucks or really, really obnoxious, loud, jacked up or whatever. And my brother Jake had like fast tuner cars. But definitely like on the track that you were on was the video games. Dude, Need for Speed Underground 2. I played that game all the time.
Great
like
one.
as long as I could, and like I really Gone in 60 Seconds, the Nicolas Cage movie,
Yeah.
is probably where my muscle car affection started. Was that movie specifically, because it was like 2001 I think is when it came out, and that's when I was really old enough to understand what cars were and what was cool and what people were into and why. Definitely movies and video games had a big influence on my want to be part of car stuff. But again, I grew up with trucks and four-wheelers and stuff, so like it wasn't really, I wasn't born into hot rodding as much. The only hot rod that I can remember my dad having was an IROC Z28.
My dad had one of those. The first time I ever felt the speed, like really felt the speed, my dad had just put a sub in his Camaro, and he was blasting like Welcome to the Machine, Pink Floyd.
Oh, nice.
Welcome My Son.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Machine. And we were probably doing 150. Some insanely irresponsible number. And like, I was like 9. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think I was like 10 or 11 when my dad had this IROC Z, and that's like the only hot rod I can remember him having. And my mom made him sell it. She like verbatim told him to quit acting like he was 19, and he had to get rid of it.
Man, that must have sucked.
Yeah.
I think it still bothers him. I think that's why he was so pumped whenever, like, my first hot rod was a Z28. It was a 3rd gen. It was an 84 or 83 or 84, and he found it for $600. I wanted to buy a 240 as like my first project car. I wanted a 240 SX in the worst way.
Yeah, like you sort of came into it from the Need for Speed background.
Oh yeah,
you know,
I
imports.
liked, not that I didn't like muscle cars, but I just didn't see that there was any way I could afford them, and I
Yeah.
knew I could get my hands on stuff like 240s and Volkswagens is what I had at the time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But he was really excited. He found this Z28 5-speed car for $600. Just needed an engine and training. It was like there was no rust. It was straight as an arrow. Some old lady had it. Her husband died, so we got it for cheap. But I think that's why, and it was white too, just like his IROC. I think that's why he picked that one, because I wanted 240, and he was like, "Why don't you just buy something we can both work on?" I'm like, "Fine, you pick it." But yeah, I think the video games and the movies growing up was definitely what really sparked my interest. And hearing all my dad's stories, because like my dad, he had my brother Jake and got married, and that's pretty much when his racing career, not that he had a career, but like his racing lifestyle kind of quit, because he used to go to Beaver Springs constantly, like with his Nova and anything that they could get their hands on to race. But so I didn't really get to see that side of him, but I always heard all the stories.
Yeah, and the video games and the movies and stuff too. It also sort of picked up on the culture around it. Like There for a while, like in the Smog era. Like I wasn't around for it, but like you could tell, like it sort of died off for a while.
Oh yeah.
And then like whenever the video games and the movies and stuff came out, like it sort of started picking back up on the culture, which for me, like the culture of it's the fun part too.
Oh yeah. Well, most of it, anyways. You always got the culture vultures,
Yeah.
and people that don't make the people that make it not fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you always go, like you'll go to a car meet. Like for me, I used to go to car meets all the time. I had a lot of fun at a lot of car meets, but it got to a point where it just wasn't fun anymore. People would show up and they would make a mess of everything. They'd throw their trash everywhere. They'd be doing burnouts, blowing through the parking lot, just making a scene, and to get us all thrown out.
Yeah.
So like those parts of the culture I don't like, but
Yeah, and
the,
those
like-
are the people that are there that just want to be there to like, hey, look at me, and
Yes.
then like you know, they split, and then
Yes.
you guys are the ones that are left with a mess.
yep, not to sound like a purist or anything, but like there is,
Yeah, the people that are like into the cars, they're there for the cars.
Yep.
Like they're not there for themselves. Like if I take something somewhere, like that's just my way of getting there. Like I don't care who's looking at my stuff. Like I want to go there to look at other people's stuff too.
Yeah.
You know.
um,
Now,
so
how do you want to do this? Do you want to go the whole way through your questions, or do you want to each alternate a question?
We're gonna go over our time.
it's whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't have to go through all of them.
Yeah.
But I think if we maybe alternate questions, that's probably okay with me.
Okay.
get-
And it
get a
doesn't
little-
necessarily have to be that long-winded either.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one took a little long, which is fine. But
That's a
like,
deep
I,
question.
I think that was a good question to go a little over on.
yeah, I mean, it gives everybody a little idea of our background.
Yeah.
I will say before we get off this topic, other than my dad's Z28, the one thing that we had that we didn't have very long that I thought was super cool, and I barely remember it. The only reason I remember it is because there's a picture of it, and it like brings back this one specific memory of us ripping down through the field in it. My dad bought a sand rail.
Oh, no kidding.
We had a VW sand rail, and like not like a dune buggy. I mean, it was a sand rail. It was full cage, but it had a VW motor in it. It was badass.
Yeah, those things are wild.
And I know where it's at. Well, as long as the person who has it didn't sell it, but like the neighbor
So you're
guy,
not 100% sure. That
I'm
you know
pretty
it.
sure they still have it
So
though.
like, we're gonna go get it one of these days.
It's hey man, it's happening with my brother's El Camino. It could happen with the
This
sand
is what
rail.
we're about. Like we just go and like get stuff. On
Yeah.
them. Like for me, a lot of it's just like the fun of cars is like just the fun of finding them and going and getting them.
Yeah, it's like treasure hunting
Yeah.
without
awesome.
actually
And
hunting
then, like,
for
whenever
them.
you have time to like make something with them, like yeah.
Like I drove
do
by this El Camino for 12 years essentially, running back and forth to town and to where my bank is. Every time I drive by this guy's house, there it's at. And I'd run into him here or there. He'd be driving it. He daily drove that thing for a long time. And they parked it because the transmission just started leaking. I don't think he knows where it's leaking from. I think it's probably just a line, one of the training cooler lines. But yeah, like and just one day I just happened to ask about it, and he wants to see it go to a good home. He doesn't want to sell it and see somebody just like destroy it and scrap it. He wants to see somebody bring it back to life and use it. And that's what that guy's about. That's what he does. He keeps finding he's into like the 30s and 40s and 50s cars,
This
big
guy's
time.
like in his mid 70s, so
That
his-
stuff's so insane to me, man.
And this guy's a genius.
Yeah,
He's-
old
he's-
ones, like that's difficult.
he is such an interesting guy because he's so different. I'll just say different from like most people.
Oh yeah, he's so smart that like you always meet those super brainy people.
He's like a 70-plus-year-old Sheldon Cooper. if you
Yeah,
watch a
I was
good
gonna
guy
say
play.
like that's exactly what I was gonna say. You always meet those people that's like a Sheldon Cooper, and this guy's just a hippie version of that from
Yeah.
that era.
I love this guy already.
Yeah, dude, you'd love him. And it's somebody that my dad's known since he was 15. So there's like a little bit of, you all right, Dwight?
Yep, good.
He's
My
cool.
computer I forgot my screen was touchscreen, and I thought I deleted my questions.
Oh. So, anyways, go ahead, Dwight. We'll move on with the next question.
Yeah, we'll try to be a little bit less
Long-winded.
long-winded on this one. If you can sit down with any one person, living or deceased, that was influential in the world of hot rodding, who would it be?
Oh man, you go ahead. I got to think about this
Oh,
one.
me too. I'm happy to be sitting here with you guys, Travis and Dwight Shelley.
We have nothing to do with it. We just do it.
Yeah.
And like we do it average.
We're not influencers. We're influenced.
Yeah.
Like,
That's tough. You guys are both staring at me. They're both staring at me.
well, I'm kind of curious to see what your answer would be because how new you are into
Yeah,
it.
it's like I don't know a whole lot. Like I'd probably miss a lot. I still have a lot to learn. I don't know. Like who was in charge of like commercializing this sort of power trend? You know, like
I think Hot Rod Magazine had
Yeah.
everything to do
Well-
with commercializing it.
and making it like affordable, like branding, like some of
Who
the
you're looking for is Mickey Thompson.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
okay, yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah. That I would have to go with him.
You know what? I think that would be. I know it's my question, but I think that was going to be my answer also.
And like I wouldn't even have anything to say. You know, I would just like be listening.
yeah.
So
Just because he was one of them that like he didn't take normal things and make them work. You know, he like tried different things, and
yeah.
you know, I'm sure he failed a bunch of times at trying to make stuff work. But like the things that he made work were incredible,
oh yeah.
and like he took that and built it into a business, like
A big
that's-
one.
a big one that's still around. That Mickey Thompson makes basically anything you want to buy now,
Yeah.
pretty much.
It's a like and like the tragedy behind that. Do you know anything about that?
No,
He got shot and killed.
Did
Him
he?
and his wife.
wow,
Yeah.
Whoa.
I
Yeah.
did not know that.
He got hooked up, and this is so Motor Trend, one of my favorite channels to subscribe to, has a thing. It's called Autobiography, and they dive into some of the mysteries behind some of the automotive world stuff. And one of them was who killed Mickey Thompson and his wife, and why. Someone got convicted of it, but like it was years later, like years
Wow.
and years later. But he got hooked up with some suppose they were supposed to be like business partners or something of the sort. Don't quote me on this, people, but and everyone told him don't do that. The guy's not a good guy. Like don't get hooked up with that guy. It's bad. And he did anyways because Mickey Thompson was just like, I don't care what anybody says. I'm gonna do what I want. And like if that worked for him all the way up until this point, and something happened to where essentially someone hired somebody to kill him, and I think his wife just got caught in a crossfire, and it was all over money, but
So
I didn't know that.
out.
I just turned it on one day. I was like, oh, this is about Mickey Thompson, cool, and I was like, oh my god, this is not what I wanted to watch.
Yeah, this turned into something that is very different than what I thought.
Oh yeah,
Discovery idea.
no doubt. And it threw me off. But I thought that was just the strangest thing because you don't always hear anything about that kind of stuff in the automotive world because everyone's pretty much in it for the same deal.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean?
if I had to add a modern like answer to that, it would be Chip Foose. Like,
Yeah, I love
I'm
Chip
not gonna
Foose.
like. I think that speaks for itself. Like, I'm not
That's
gonna
who
get
I was
into why.
probably gonna
But
say.
So like, growing up, I was a musician, and an artist. That kind of like the music and art kind of like runs in my family, and Chip Foose I look up to a lot because like that dude can sit down with markers and not screw up and draw a car.
yeah,
And
I can't
that's how he
write.
starts a build.
Yeah, I can't.
He draws it before he ever like builds it.
I can't write 2 sentences without having to scribble a word out and write it again because my handwriting sucked or I spelled the word wrong. And that dude can sit down with permanent markers and draw a car from
so
scratch
cool.
of one that doesn't exist. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, what's your actual answer here, Travis?
There's a few people I'd like to sit and like talk to and pick their brain and have a beer with. I've already met a bunch of them, like Finnegan, like we got to meet.
Yep.
Tony Angelo, we got to be like friends with.
I don't know if he'd say he's friends with us. But,
Yeah,
we'll
like,
say we're friends
yeah,
with him just because.
I've got his phone
You guys
number,
are
whatever.
boys.
Yeah, we homies. We homies, dog. Anyways, like, I've got to meet those people, and they always say don't meet your heroes because you'll always be disappointed. That has not been the case so far.
Because they're real.
They are real people, and that's the one thing I love about this industry,
Well, that's what I like
this
about
culture.
cars. Like, because I've done that in the music world. Like, I was a professional musician for 8 years, and I met a lot of my heroes, and I was disappointed.
Yeah. In the car world, it doesn't seem to be that way. Now, I'm sure with some of the reality TV stars, I'm sure that there's some issues there, but so far with my experiences so far, everybody's been exactly who they were on camera, and I love that. But
So
I would like
your
to sit
answer-
down with. I would like to sit and talk to David Freiberger. I really do. I mean that because he
Yes.
has so much information about
he's-
so much stuff.
And that comes, I think, a lot from where he grew up at. Like, he was surrounded by,
He was in the epicenter of it.
yeah.
Oh.
He was surrounded by it
And
his
he
whole life.
like grew up with it at like the most opportune time to really, for all the stuff that we take for granted and just thinks cool, like that was his life. Like he grew up with all that stuff. He saw it all happen. He even helped create some of the stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean,
What was that
They
porcelain
used-
spark plug? The porcelain spark plug boot or whatever it was that
Oh,
wouldn't burn
yeah.
on the headers, like that. Just that stupid stuff.
yeah.
Like
and like he's so involved with it. Like, I mean, for one of his cars is in a Fast and the Furious movie.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That's nuts.
like the F bomb is in one of those movies,
Yep.
and like they went to him. Like, it's not like he went to them.
Yeah, they're like,
they
hey,
went to
can
him.
we build a clone of your car and put it in this movie? Like
Yeah, so
that's
it can,
awesome.
Like wheelie and kill people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But I would definitely like to sit down and talk with him. I would also like to sit and talk with Jesse James.
Absolutely.
I would like to, like, not only because of like his accomplishments with
He
his
has
cars
a
and stuff.
musician background also.
Does he?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
His old boss was Danzig.
Get out of here. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
What?
Yes.
That's
Um,
awesome.
Is that
You know-
who he posted the
That
picture
makes-
with
that makes
on
complete
Instagram?
total
Okay,
sense.
I saw
I'll
that.
pull it up here.
I
right
wasn't
now.
sure if that was him or not. Hold on, I got it right here. I got the.
Cheers to Danzig.
Yes, he is a very and Jesse James is a self-built guy too. Like
Yeah.
he's where he is because of himself. Like that's
No
that's
kidding.
admirable to me.
That's an insane
Right here.
picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the one that he posted on Instagram the other day. I didn't know that's who that was. I knew this was Jesse James, but like I didn't know that
Yes.
was Danzig.
That's an insane
That's pretty cool.
picture.
Legends.
Yep.
Yeah, they're-
Before we get too long-winded in this,
Yeah,
like,
Okay.
these are all interesting people. Like we could make episodes out of these people.
Yeah.
This. Now we realize we have a problem with this. We're gonna have to shorten this up a little bit, but
Okay,
Need to
I
get
got
a timer.
question.
Yeah.
Since we've all owned a Ford Ranger, do you guys hate Fords?
You want me to start or you want to start?
We got a
I
lot
guess
of
I can
Chevys,
start.
right? Like so, people
Yeah.
like Chevys. Some people hate Ford. I don't hate Fords.
Dwight told me
I don't necessarily.
I don't know
hate
if I'd
anything.
dump a bunch of money into a Ford, but I'm gonna drive my
There's-
Ranger till the
I would in
wheels
the right
fall off.
Ford. I would for the right Ford.
Yeah,
Okay.
like there's things I like about anything. I'm not an emblem guy. I'm a car
Yeah,
guy.
none of us are. So just for the record.
Yeah, and like I try to tell, like I get people come up to me and like my friends and stuff, and they'll be like, "Hey man, I'm looking at buying this car. What do you think?" And I'm the worst person to talk to about trying to buy a car because I'll tell you every reason why not to, and that'll be with any car, whether it's a Ford, Chevy, Mitsubishi, Isuzu, Geo Tracker, whatever. Like Geo Tracker, buy it every time, but with Ford specifically, like they made some really, really good stuff and they made some really, really bad stuff. But that goes with every single manufacturer. It really does.
Does.
In my experience, in the few Fords that I've owned, and like the one that my brother Chris owned, I would own them again. I would love to have my old Mustang back. And I hate to be the Mustang guy, but like I loved my Mustang. That car proved itself time and time. It just didn't care. That car was the best running high mileage V8 5-speed car. There was never anything wrong with it. And when it broke, we could fix it on the fly with just random stuff. And it never broke again. It just kept running. The kid who has it now still hasn't broke.
And that happened at the racetrack.
That happened at the racetrack, yes. First time I broke at the
and it
racetrack.
wasn't like anything substantial. Like it broke a coolant port on the intake, the plastic.
Yeah, which I'm not real sure how that even broke.
Yeah.
But
It
anyways,
doesn't matter why. It just did.
yeah. But the Mustang that I had and the Ranger that I had an 84. I think it was an 84. Let me look. It had a 4-liter V6 and a 5-speed, and it was 2-wheel drive, standard cab, long bed. So like there was nothing to the truck, and they were narrow, nimble vehicles as they were. That thing would smoke the tires, going up Sterrett's Gap, if there was just the slightest bit of moisture on the road, if you kicked the clutch in third gear starting up that mountain, you can hold it to the floor and it would smoke the tire from the bottom all the way to the roundabout at the top. I love that truck.
I like mine too. Like I got a 2011, so it's like still looks like the older style where they made them bigger. And the only thing it can't do is I got a 5-speed, so I can't back it up a hill with a loaded trailer without burning up the clutch. That's the only thing I can't.
That sounds like driver error. Yeah,
No.
mine was an 84 Ranger. I'm pretty
My-
sure. It was
my-
that body style anyways.
I ran into a similar situation to that with the Ranger that I had. It was a 2.3 4-cylinder 5-speed standard cab long bed. For my in-laws, I hold a load of mulch, and I just used that because at the time, for whatever reason, it was the only like truck type thing that I had. So I used that. And I got 2 yards of mulch in the back of that truck, surprisingly. They asked how much I wanted, and I was like, just put as much as you possibly can. I was like, I'm going like a quarter mile down the road, just load it on there. Well, I hadn't had the truck for long at that time, and I didn't realize that 4-low didn't work in it, and like my in-laws' driveway is super steep. So like I had to get a run to get up the driveway because it just physically did not.
That driveway is
have the
like a
power.
45-degree incline.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, so like I had to get a run to get up the driveway, and I was pulled up the driveway. So then I had to turn around because there's not much room there. So then I had to back up the driveway.
That's the only
and-
thing you can't handle. Dude.
Yeah, I had to back up the driveway, and I didn't realize 4-low didn't work, and I was counting on that. And
Yeah, mine's a 2-wheel drive, so
yeah, so
I'm not gonna do it.
yeah, so like I got basically stuck there, and without pulling down onto the highway, I couldn't like get a run to get up the driveway. So I just would like redline this thing, and I dropped the clutch in reverse and stalled the truck. And each time I did it, I could get like 6 inches, and I thought I did that 15 times to get this truck to where it needed to be. Like nothing broke though. Like I'll give it that. Like it didn't have the power
funny,
to.
but
Yeah, the clutch smelled awful.
The only thing that
But, like,
ever
nothing
went
actually, like,
yeah.
I've
broke.
only had to do it twice in mine so far.
The only thing that ever went bad with mine was the synchro in third gear. It was only third gear.
There's lots of things wrong with mine, but like it never necessarily like broke.
Well,
where
that's what I
couldn't
mean.
drive
It never broke, but the only thing that ever went wrong with it was, and I don't even know if it was a synchro because you could shift it into third. But like if you didn't keep your hand on that shifter and you stomped on that thing in third gear, it would kick the shifter. It would knock it right out of gear.
Oh, you know what? Saying that, mine did the same thing too.
And it was every
And
time.
because my shifter knob was loose, if it threw it out of third gear, the shifter knob would come off too. That was fun.
I used to bang shift that thing so hard all the time, and it was just because of doing burnouts. I could get like 3-gear burnouts in it, and it just would take it. But yeah, that was the only thing that ever went wrong with that thing.
So we like Fords.
I don't hate them, nor do I love them. I love some of their cars, and I hate most of their cars. But and it's not because the cars themselves are terrible, but it's a lot of the time and effort that they put into building stuff. I feel like they could have spent less time and made it better. Same thing with Chevy, same thing with Dodge, and it's like I said, it's not just Ford, it's all
I
of them.
honestly can't say I like necessarily like anything more than others. I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah.
There
For
are
me, it's like since I'm, I don't have as much experience. Like it's so easy. I love Chevys, and I have tons of Chevy nostalgia in my life from my father. But it's easy for me to find the information. Small block Chevy, like it's tons. It's so available for me. So.
and you can
There's
ask
some things that are more simplistic than
yeah,
others.
yeah, and you can ask pretty much any like legitimate engine builder or something and be like, "Hey, I want to start learning about engines. What should I go with?" They're going to tell you small block Chevy right off the
Absolutely.
bat
Yeah, it's like
every
if I
time.
started trying to build a small block Ford, it'd be like a lot less availability on just everything.
Well, and just
And for me, cost is a big.
I was going to
Yeah,
say, and
like,
for
I'm
whatever
good.
reason, small block Fords are just way more expensive.
Yeah.
You can walk into any Pep Boys, and I literally walked into Pep Boys, and I spent $720 and built a small block Chevy, with buying all of my parts from Pep Boys that were on the shelf.
What question are we on?
That was his question. Do we like? Yeah, that was
Okay.
3.
He's up
Okay.
next.
Yep.
So, all right, I'll ask one here.
I honestly forgot how we got on that topic.
He asked
That
what.
was my question.
Yeah.
I hate Fords.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Okay, here's a good one.
I love how that question turned out, by the way. like the answers to the way the question was asked.
Yeah.
It's like
I
our
love how
money
that
pits
turned
are
out.
all Chevys, you know, but like
Well, and some Mopars.
yeah, and some
Yeah.
Mopars. Yeah, you got some Mopars. I don't have a Mopar.
I got one laying down back
Yeah,
here.
you do.
So here's a good one that like you can ask anybody this question and there's always an interesting story behind it. Usually, sometimes it's like, oh, well, my parents bought it for me. What was your first car and why? What was the story behind the reason you got the car that you got for your very first vehicle?
I'll go first.
Oh, go ahead.
1991 Honda Accord LX.
Is that the one you just sold?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still running. I bought it from a guy in the military. I was like, I think the third owner. Right now, it has 270,000 miles on the original timing belt. I was supposed to change it when I bought it 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I sold it to my friend. He offered me $1,000. I said, $500, you got a deal.
Wow.
And it's still running. We just changed the belts. It's running great. We got to do the timing belt very soon. And you know, if it blows up, we'll put an LS in it.
Heck yeah, man. What about you, Dwight?
There's a couple that sort of like were group cars. I can't necessarily say they were mine. I think the first one that I can say was truly mine was my C10, the one that is my drag vehicle now, my street legal drag vehicle. And that's the reason why is because that's like I wanted to get into drag racing, and that's what was around. It used to be my mom's daily driver, and it like she and my dad, you know, belted a little bit, and
Let's say you had a 406 in it when you got it, right?
it had a 406 in it, and she daily drove it with a 406 in it, and it was eating transmissions because it had 273 gears in it. And then like the emission stuff came out, and like it burned up another transmission. My dad got fed up with it and shoved it back in the woods, and it sat back there and rotted. And then that's what was around, so that's what
That's what you
I
got. That's a pretty cool story, though. I find that stuff really interesting, especially when someone's like, "Yeah, I drug it out of the woods, and that's what I drove."
Yeah, that's what was around. That's, you know, that turned into my race vehicle. You know,
My first car, and like this was, I had my permit at the time, and it wasn't in my name or anything because of that reason. Like I was on the insurance policy as, you know, as a novice driver, and like I was 16. But my first car that I got to drive on the road legally was a 96 Buick Riviera. Here, I'll show you a picture of this. And I, like I said the other on, was it Friday or was it Friday or Thursday? Yeah, it was yesterday when we looked at the El Camino. This guy had a 63 Buick Riviera, and I think this is why I have a affection for them is because of my first car, even though it looks nothing like the one that this guy has. But it was a 96 Buick Riviera with the 3.8 supercharger on it. And I spent a good bit of time cleaning it up on the inside and, you know, taking the window tint. This is exactly what it looked like. That one right there. That is what it looked like right there. It had these wheels on it, but it was this car. And in the picture, it doesn't look that big. You could stick probably 7 people in that car. Comfortably. It was huge, and it was all leather. It had air ride suspension on it.
Coupe like that.
Yeah. Dude, the back seat was enormous. It was like sitting in a Cadillac without spending money on a Cadillac.
That's why I always liked Buicks.
But my dad, he said to me, he's like, you know, you're going to be, you know, needing a car here soon. He's like, I found one sitting along the road. And I stopped in and asked. It didn't have a sign on it, but I asked the lady if she wanted to sell it. And she said, yeah, but it's, you know, something's wrong with it. $150.
wow.
It needed head gaskets, but it was $150. So like $800 later, having head gaskets, the cylinders cleaned out, new plugs, wires, the whole deal. That car was tip-top shape. The paint on it was great. The headlights were great. Like, it was a perfect starter car.
Where's it at now?
Probably New York. So what happened was I drove it around a little bit on my permit, and then whenever I got my license, my dad asked me. My brother Chris had the red '89 Chevy I always talk about, and he sold it to my dad for $1,200. And then my dad said to me, he was like, "I know you like that truck." He's like, "I like that car for a daily." He was like, "Do you want to trade up?" Absolutely. Because like I paid my dad back the $800 because I was working up the street at a farmer's market. So like I was paying him every time I got money, I'd give him money for it. But so I traded him that car for that truck, and then my dad sold it to a buddy of his who was living in New York at the time and just commuting back and forth till he moved, and he bought it. So I'm pretty sure it's probably still up in New York State, but that was a great little car. But my first legitimate, like my vehicle, was that '89 Chevy standard cab, four-wheel drive, short bed with a 350 Edelbrock crate motor in it. That thing ripped. But I had to sell it because I couldn't afford to drive it. I was making $200 every 2 weeks, and like, you can't drive it slow when you're 17 and have a V8 and it's loud and it rips and does burnouts. You can't drive it slow.
No, you
Even
literally
my Honda,
can't.
like I bought it off of my money working at McDonald's. I worked there for like a year and a half. And I think it cost me like $1,800.
Yeah.
And at that time, like since gas prices are going up now, gas was like $4.05. I would like have to work half a week to fill up my tank on
Yeah.
like $7 an hour.
Yeah, it was like because I was driving it. I had it for probably a year and a half. Like I had it in high school. And I would put like $60 in it to fill it. And then, 3 days later, I was putting another $20 in it. And then that's all I had. That's it. I was
getting
out.
like 2 gallons at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was getting it $20 bills at a time, and like I had to sell it, so I bought a Volkswagen instead. But that was my first car. All right, Dwight, you're up.
This one can be super simple. Shouldn't take long. What was your least favorite car that you owned?
I know that answer right off the top of my damn head. It was a 1994 Chevy Lumina Euro.
Yep, that looks like
This one right here.
That looks like something that would be a least favorite car.
I'm
into
I
it.
got it for $1,000. Okay. I was in a tight spot. I got in an accident with one of my cars. Somebody had on me, and it was just a mess. And like I didn't know what I was going to do. I needed a car, and my dad's buddy owned a garage. Had this sitting out front of his house for $1,000, so we went and bought it. That was the biggest pile of crap I have ever owned, and I only say pile of crap not because it wasn't reliable, but it only had 4 gears. 65 mile an hour down the highway was like almost 3,000 RPM, so it got terrible fuel mileage. Wow. It was a V6. I think it had like a 3.4 liter or something in it. It was a junk motor. It didn't sound cool.
Way to go, Chevy. What were they thinking?
And it was probably the most gross car I ever owned. Like the interior was like cloth, and it was, I'm sure 1994 that thing was sweet. But when I owned it, it was gross. And like I cleaned it and
was
made
like that
everything.
cloth that like somehow got sticky.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It was disgusting. And it didn't have AC. It just didn't have it.
It's like 15 years of soda that got spilled on it.
Yeah.
Rusted.
The whole way through the car. And it was clean. Like it was a clean car. The only rust that was on it, and I fixed, while I rigged it, one of the fuel lines started going. So I just cut it out and put a rubber line in. Well, then it started doing it again. There was 4 fuel lines on it. I don't know why. I never looked into it. I'm sure 2 were supply and 2 were return or something of the sort. But 2 of them rotted out, so I fixed them, kind of. And then I sold it to a guy at work because his kid needed a car because he had just wrecked his. I'm like, well, you can buy this one off of me for $1,200. He was like, done. I was like, all right, made $200. Sweet. Now, it was a good car. It would go. It would start every time. It just wasn't a great vehicle to be seen in or want to drive or be comfortable in. It sounded cool in the rev limiter, but anything else after that, just driving it sounded terrible. Starting it sounded terrible. I sold it to him, and then a week later, the steering column took a shit. And he had to go to GM and buy a specific tool for that specific car to change the steering column out. I don't know what happened. He just said the steering column took a shit and it wouldn't turn anymore.
That's a problem for a car.
Yeah. And then after he got that fixed, it was like 3 weeks later because he had to wait for the tool to show up. The other 2 fuel lines rotted out on it. I felt so bad. I felt so bad. But that car right there is the one I hated the most.
What about you, Tyler?
I can't answer that because I've owned 3 cars. I've owned a 91 Honda Accord that never left me stranded ever. It broke down one time because it needed a distributor cap, and so I like got a ride home, and I came back and started right up, and I drove it right home. And so it left me stranded once. It was just a little sick. I have a Ford Ranger that I like, and I have a Chevy El Camino.
That's it?
Yeah, it's the
Oh,
only car
man.
that
I
I've
feel
owned.
terrible because I've
I
owned a
have
million
Honda
cars.
Accord for 13 years of my
I
life.
have more than 3 cars on the road right now.
Yeah, no, I've only ever owned 3, and that's it.
Wow.
Mine was.
I love them all.
That's good, man. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Mine was. It could be a toss up between my 94 Ford Explorer that I had, just because it was
That's
so
terrible.
just because it was so boring, and like that thing had put me in a couple strange spots.
Is that the one you went down there to the bank in?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Long story short, I wrecked that one. But that thing, the like clutches in the rear were like welded together, like not like I did it. It did it on its own.
Oh.
So it was like full posi all the time. So like it wore back tires out like nobody's business. It pushed the front end.
I was going to say,
whenever
it probably
you're
didn't
trying
steer
to
super
Yeah.
great either.
No. The like starter relay went bad in it, so like I had to open the hood and start it with a screwdriver, and it also had this bad habit of like shutting off whenever you'd stop. So if I was in traffic, like I had to keep hopping out and opening the hood and starting it with a screwdriver, which was super embarrassing. And the ball for the windshield wiper motor that like hooks into the slot for the wiper arms, like you know how they spin in a circle.
Yeah.
That was like worn out, and the windshield wipers would like quit working, and it did that to me one time. It was pouring down. I mean, I wouldn't be using windshield wipers if it wasn't raining, but like it was raining, my windshield wipers quit working. I was like an hour from home, and the person that was with me, I took the boot laces out of my boots and I tied around the windshield wipers, and I handed one to her. I was like, all right, I'll pull, and then you pull, and then I'll pull, and then you pull.
It's like those videos you see online.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like we got home like that. But yeah, that wasn't a good vehicle. And the transmission was awful. Like, but it got me to where I needed to be, I guess.
For a little while, anyways.
Yeah.
All right.
Way to go for it.
Do you have any more questions, Tyler?
Nope.
All right. So I got at least 2 that I want to ask on this podcast. One of them being, because I know the story you're going to tell. What is the most interesting thing to have happen to you while you're at the races, or you are racing, or you were racing? What is the most interesting thing to have ever happened to you?
This is whenever I ran a class called TCR. It's Teen Championship Racing. It's for kids 13 to 15. Before you have a driver's license, you have to have an adult with you. If you only race 8th mile, you can only run 10 flat and 8th. So I was a kid. And there, supposedly it was like the guy didn't make a mistake. He was just like trying to show off. It was a guy in an airplane that came down. I'm going down the track like I'm racing, and a guy in an airplane came down and went like roof level with my truck and flew directly over top of me as I was racing. And like this plane made enough like air that it like moved my truck.
Wow.
And like it about put me in the grass. Like there's dust flying and everything, and like people were coming up to me after it happened at the races. They were like, "You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I'm fine." Like it startled me, but like I'm fine. And like my one friend's mom that was there, she came up like bawling because she thought I crashed. Like nobody could see anything. This plane threw so much dust because it was so dry.
Was it like a prop plane, or was it like
Yeah,
a
it was
jet
like
plane?
just a hairy homeowner. Like it's not the right
That's
terminology.
Like a
but-
Cessna or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cessna.
Yeah, just some small plane, but it was just somebody like trying to, be cool. Came down and flew over top of me. That was interesting. Like it's the last thing that you're thinking is going to happen. Like Because, like, I thought I was going to die for a minute.
That's an insane thing to do.
'Cause-
Like, screw that guy.
Like, if you were racing a car, who's going to think about getting hit by an airplane? Like,
Going the same direction that you are
Yeah.
at that.
like,
Like you couldn't even see it coming. You just heard it.
yeah.
What about you? You got any racing stories?
Yeah, so it's not at a racetrack.
Yeah.
We get it.
This is in
So
Mexico, right?
Yeah, so I was playing music. I played this festival downtown Chicago. And
Mexico is what he meant to say.
In Mexico, yeah. No, I was in Chicago. and and so I had this friend of a friend that was like, there was some like place we were supposed to go and play later. Like, the thing ended downtown like 9 o'clock, so everybody goes out, parties all night or whatever. And so this guy like was a friend of my friend, and he was older than me. I was probably like 22 at the time. This guy's like in his mid 30s, late 30s, and he's like a white Beamer guy. All right, he drives a white Beamer, a nice one. And,
It's good, man. Try it. It's really good.
He like I met up with him, and like he was gonna take me to this place, and we met with these girls. Like one of them was like a model or something, and like I was just in the car, right? So this guy's driving like a total fucking lunatic because his dad's the police, chief of police, in a white Beamer, and we raced a couple people on the way, but he was driving like a lunatic. The models in the back were acting like it was like their daily life, like they weren't like losing their shit. I was like, this guy's like about to kill me, and we stopped at a CVS. There was a guy in Bulls Everything, Chicago Bulls Everything, selling crack cocaine on the corner. And we'll call the guy John, the driver, the race car driver in the white Beamer. Starts like, not like barking at him. Like he's from Chicago, so he's like trying to be street with him, It's this white guy in a white Beamer. And this crack dealer ends up kind of like becoming cool with us, and so we went into we were trying to meet up with this bus. There's a bus that has a DJ on it, and they were supposed to pick us up because the guys, one of the models, like boyfriends or whatever, was DJing on this bus, and we brought the crack dealer with us on the bus and brought him all the way to this other party. And the last thing I remember before I was like really drunk, like I was like smoking a blunt in a bathroom stall with this crack dealer freestyling to me, and like we just picked him up. I don't know whatever happened to him after that, or any of those people. I saw the race car BMW driver a couple times after that, but he would just always try to kidnap me and scare the shit out of me. So it's not at a drag strip or anything, but it happened. I thought I was gonna die.
Well, that's certainly interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that was it. I'm glad that's the story that came up.
Yeah. I'm telling you, dude, Tyler's got some good stories that like it's stuff you only hear like on movies and stuff. Hold on, Dwight's got to take a sweet selfie of us.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to take pictures earlier, and like I don't like any button that I touched on my phone took a picture. Yeah, I was trying to turn it down, and I kept taking pictures.
You got to get one for the gram because, like I said before, people, I'm gonna put an Instagram up and everything, as well as a YouTube channel.
Nice.
Were you pointing?
Yeah.
Dwight's like, you,
Yeah, it's like
listen
that,
here.
dude. We got the horns, the P's, and the point. I like that.
I think you're up on a question.
I don't have any more questions.
Oh, you don't? Oh, so you just asked that one, didn't you?
You're up, boy.
Yeah, so I'm up. Let me look through here. I want to try to find a good one here.
I got a good one to end on.
All right.
Like to end this segment on.
Cool.
So we can like do the last 15 minutes of this so we can start making some sweet food.
Yeah. Do you want me to go through a couple that can just be like simple, like one word answers? I have a couple questions
Yeah,
that are
let's
like
do
that.
that.
That we don't have to get in depth on. Favorite car movie? Mine's Two Lane Blacktop.
Easy Rider.
That's a bike movie, bro.
Well, they have
Whatever.
engines.
I'm just picking on you. Man, Two-Lane Blacktop is a good one. I really enjoyed the remake of Gone in 60 Seconds, the Nicolas Cage one. I really enjoyed that one a lot. But I do really like Vanishing Point. Vanishing
that one's
Point.
not bad.
Vanishing Point's a pretty good one.
So I'm just gonna rattle through a couple of my
Let's do it.
questions. Favorite famous car, like
Blasphemy,
Oh,
generally.
generally speaking.
we gotta think about this.
I don't think there is any famous El Caminos.
Yeah, no, it's like all I like,
If it's not Blasphemy, it's gonna be Joe
There was
Dirt's
a sick El Camino in
Daytona.
that movie, El Camino. Breaking Bad movie. It was a really nice El Camino SS.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's an El Camino in the very end of Two-Lane Blacktop. It's like a 69 or 70 SS. It's black with white stripes El Camino that he races at the airstrip. That's the one he's racing at the very end. But
So we kind of covered favorite car movie.
we just did that, didn't we?
Mm.
No, yes, we did. My bad. We're not professionals. Road trip to anywhere. Where do you go?
Man, that's tough. I'd like to go out west, farther than I have been. Like, go out west in general just to go see, not to go do. Like, I went out west on a mission trip to Joplin, Missouri to help rebuild some stuff, but that's it. I'd like to actually go on a road trip out west somewhere.
Yeah, I'd at least like to. All right, so here's my fantasy ordeal.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
55 Chevy on the route that they took in Two-Lane Blacktop.
So all you have to do is essentially watch that Roadkill episode where they drive Blasphemy from California to, was it North Carolina? Yeah.
Something like that.
They said that they just accidentally were running almost the exact same route, and it
Yeah.
was down 66, wasn't it?
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So you want to go?
Where would I go? Like if I'm looking for nature or something, I'd go to like Wyoming.
Okay.
I've driven through it.
I don't necessarily have like a destination for mine. Like
Yeah.
I
Same.
Just,
I'd like to go down south, like Mexico or something like that.
oh, that's pretty far south.
Yeah, way south, like South America, but because you can drive down there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured as much. I would, if I don't go out west, I'd like to go to North Carolina.
West Virginia's nice too.
There's a lot of cool. I like the old school NASCAR stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it these days, but not that I hate it, but I'm more interested in the old school technology, the old school cars, the old school racers themselves. They just had so much character, and like to go down there and just be in that era or in that area
Yeah.
and see like the Hall of Fame and see some of the old shops and stuff like that. It'd be cool to go take some tours down there. But if I could do anything like road trip wise, just get in and go, I'd like to go out west. No destination, just go somewhere.
Yeah. So I pretty much just have like one more question, and it's my 11th question, because I have a couple. Like, if you could, I think I can speak for all of us when we say we're born in the wrong generation. Which generation? I'm gonna skip that one because there's only a few answers that can be given.
Yeah.
So this one is a little bit different. Do you have a favorite piece of like automotive advertising, like antique
That's a great question.
advertising?
Like signs and stuff like that?
Yeah, signs,
Magazines? What do you
Yeah.
mean?
and anything you want, like any automotive advertising. Like, what do you get a kick out of looking at? Like,
I really like some of the pinup stuff that was and like yeah, it's a big deal, like it's a big huge fad, like the pinup thing now. And I mean like not as a fad way, like some of the old advertisings, like you know, like with old cigarette advertisements, they had pinup girls doing it, but they also did that with cars.
yeah,
And like I really enjoyed seeing some of like even the gas station logos that had a pinup girl like hanging around the sign or whatever. Like I think that stuff's real cool.
Yeah.
I also like the old. Now it's old to us, but like the old commercials for some of the hot rods, and like the reason why they were hot rods. Some of those videos were like, or some of those commercials were like, it was a kid that showed up at home with his car that when he first bought it and his parents helped him buy it, it didn't look the way it did when he came home.
Yeah.
And it was all hot rodded out and stuff like that. I enjoy those commercials, especially with like as crappy as the sound was, and it's all grainy and like the sound waves go like this, like it sounds like you're listening to a VHS tape on rewind.
I have a couple answers to that probably. Like I love like the way Travis drew his car, like where it's like
like all bent
doing
over.
a wheelie and like bent over.
Yeah.
I used to work for a towing company that was their logo. It was like a tow truck like bent over.
Oh, that's
a
cool.
hook hanging out the back. I like that. I like old like oil cans a lot.
Yeah.
Like if you could find like a NOS like Pennzoil, like cans of oil. I love that stuff. And like Father's Day's coming up. I bought my dad like the blue and white Chevy, like original Chevy flag. I really
That's cool.
Thought it was cool.
I really like old gas pumps.
Yeah.
Yep. Mine's a little more of in the advertising line of it. And again, I can have a couple answers for this. I'm with you on like the Rat Fink style design stuff. I
Yeah, I
think
like
that's
that
cool,
stuff.
but that's almost like art more so than like advertising.
Yeah.
stuff.
It is.
Not that it wasn't adapted for advertising, but
Yes, exactly.
that's not what it was intended for sure.
I like neon signs.
Me too. Yeah.
Like the movie Cars, the animated movie Cars, like whenever they're low and slow on that brand new paved
Oh,
road
yeah.
down through Radiator Springs,
Yeah.
and it's a Cadillac. It's just like
Yeah.
real low to the ground,
That's
and all the
amazing
neon
scene.
signs are lit up. Like that's
amazing
that's
scene.
cool to me. Like I still feel that way. Like it's none of them are neon; they're all LED, and there's all kinds of junk cars flying past me and stuff. But, like, every now and then, if I'm just like cruising down the road in my truck and there's all the signs lit up, I think it's just a neat scenario, like surrounding, neat scenery.
That's a good answer. I like that.
All right, you got any more questions, Dwight?
No, that's about it.
All right, I'm gonna do two more, and then we'll finish out here because we're all hungry and I got a bunch of food to make.
I gotta get up and race tomorrow.
Yeah. So future plans for racings, whether it be cars, destinations of like places where you want to race, classes you want to race in, or what style of races you want to be that you aspire to be a part of, any of those. What is your future plans for racing?
Drag week.
Drag week?
That's it. I want to finish drag week.
Yeah.
Shit, I want to get like 12 seconds out of that El Camino.
There you go. That's
We
a
can
good.
do that.
That's an easy goal.
Yeah, with your help, I think we could do that.
I'd like to see like
Let's
any
do-
sort. I'd like to see any sort of time out of my Chevelle. I don't care what it is. I just want it to go down the track.
Same here.
I like street cars. I like street legal.
Mm-hmm.
I like to me, like yeah, race cars are cool, but like, what's the point in it if you have to take it somewhere to drive it?
Yeah, you have to
Yeah,
trailer
like
it every
cruise
time.
around and
Yeah,
get some
like
ice
so.
cream.
Like to me, drag week's just always been cool. Like there's two aspects of drag week, racing and the street time. Like it's just fun all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless your stuff breaks.
I was saying, unless you're broken.
Yeah.
I'd really like to get into. I would love to do drag week, and we have talked about that before. Not building a super competitive car, but more of a reliable one, and run whatever class I can get it into, and just do it. Just to do it, and that's the whole deal with drag week. Is like, can you survive a week's worth of nonstop racing and nonstop traveling? And it's all for a jacket, as far as I know, it's all for a damn jacket. That's it. No money, just the bragging rights and a
And
jacket.
that's what makes it so cool.
Yeah.
Those guys are there because they just want to do it.
Yeah, and there's like people that break their shit every single day just so they can have a jacket at the end of it. But hill climb, SCCA style hill climb racing is something I still definitely want to be a part of.
I'm into that. I don't know anything about hill climb. I would love to help you
It's
do that.
definitely way different than what we're used to.
I've seen like
Yeah.
people doing it with bikes and stuff.
Oh
I think
yeah,
that's really
but
cool.
that is definitely an aspiration of mine. So last question, last but not least, favorite thing to do a burnout in?
We have very
You go.
different answers, me and Dwight.
You go. I want to think about this.
I don't do many burnouts. You know, I don't have it many. I've never owned a vehicle powerful enough to do a burnout.
Yes, you have. I've
Yeah.
shown you how to do them.
Yeah. I like to do them on my Harley.
That's a good answer. Especially when it shoots flames like yours does
when
on
it
a
shoots
rubber
9-inch
letter.
flames out the exhaust.
It's
I really like doing
Freaking awesome.
I can have a couple answers to that.
And if there's a couple, then you got to give us reasons as to
Yeah,
why.
we have some time for this one.
My 95 Saturn that I had.
Yeah.
It just didn't matter where. Like, if you wanted to do a burnout, you just yanked the e-brake and let the clutch out. You could just rip a burnout. Like, you know.
I feel like there's more people that would agree with that statement than anyone would probably guess.
Yeah. And the other one would be is like my C10, but that's just like a whole different mindset. Like if I'm doing a burnout in that, it's like
It's
'cause I'm-
business.
That's a
Yeah.
serious thing.
Yeah, it's
yeah, like
business.
I'm racing, like I'm doing something in that.
I tell you what, it's between my
love that
Mustang
truck.
and my Chevelle.
Yeah.
My Mustang did awesome burnouts all
It
the
did.
time. And the Chevelle has just done great burnouts the whole time we've been, with it. It's never, that car has done, for people that don't know, my 66 Chevelle has done almost nothing but burnouts its whole life that I've had it. That's it. That's all it's ever been good for. I've driven it up and down the road a few times, but like it's never been sturdy enough. I mean, I'm sure it has been, but we've never thought it to be sturdy enough to like drive it down the road for any length of time. Because one time I tried it and the wheel fell off. Lug nuts backed off and the wheel fell off. I had one left on, but that car does awesome burnouts every time. It never fails. It never breaks. It just does burnouts. And we did it for hours. That's all we did one day. We went up to Dwight's house to work on stuff, and we got a wild hair up our ass and was like, I feel like doing a burnout. And we just kept doing burnouts over and over and over. And the road he lives on is like a private road. So like there's nobody that really comes up and down it. And there's like just a layer of stone. So it makes it real easy for really unpowerful cars to do burnouts. And that car, like as soon as you got them spinning, it would keep them spinning. But that was between my Mustang and the Chevelle. Those were the two that were probably the most fun. And my Ranger definitely is a runner up to that. My Ranger did great ones.
Cool.
So
I think this was a pretty good run.
yeah, I do believe so.
glad.
Probably.
There's a lot of
like we had fun doing it. It's
Yeah.
probably time to wrap up, but
So before we wrap up, I just want to say that I want to describe the book that we're going to do. We're going to figure out what chapter we're going to do then, probably later. And then there will be a Instagram for our podcast talk show. We will all link them to our descriptions in our personal Instagram pages and Facebook and stuff, as well as this will first be going up on YouTube. So until I get the hosting website set up and everything like that, that's where you can find this. And our Instagram and our social medias will tell you where you can find it. But please go and find it and like it and follow us, Performance Perceptions. But our first book that we're going to do is David Vizard's How to Build Max Performance Chevy Small Blocks on a Budget. That is quite the title.
Hell yeah.
But he has best engine combos. There's 10 best engine combos in this book,
I
and
want to talk about a couple of them.
for sure. And there's so much information in this book, and like
Yeah,
just
it's
that.
not a huge book.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
digestible.
I think it's 160 pages exactly.
It's awesome.
And they're just. It took me an
Great
hour.
diagrams, charts.
Yeah, it took me an hour just to read the introduction. But this is the first book that we're going to start with. David Vizard's How to Build Max Performance Chevy Small Blocks on a Budget.
and it's a good first one. This one's super relatable.
Yep. And affordable.
Yes, and like we can split this one up through a few of them. There's no way we can cover this book. Like it'll take some time
Yeah, so
because he goes pretty in depth.
he really does.
does.
So I'm figuring we'll do this chapter by chapter, and we're not going to stick with the same book until it's done. We'll break it up. We'll do this book a couple times and maybe a couple other books here and there, and as well as having our guests. I want everybody to remember that we will have special guests. If anyone is listening to this and is involved in this automotive industry and wants to tell their story or tell their opinions or whatever the case may be, give us a shout.
Yeah, and like we look forward to that too, because like we said, this might get boring.
Yeah,
You know?
and we don't want it to be boring. I
No.
mean, we don't think we're boring until someone tells us we are, and then we're like, oh.
Yeah, well, we gotta do something different.
Yeah.
This.
So, I hope everyone enjoyed the very first edition of this. I think we all did. We were running a little bit past our time, but that's how good shows go. I'm always a big proprietor for longer podcasts over short ones because, you know, not everybody has a 20-minute drive to work. Sometimes they're 30 or 40 minutes.
Yep.
And if you got spare time and you're, you know, doing yard work or mowing the grass,
Or if you're in your garage and you don't want to listen to music.
Yeah.
I do that.
I do
I'll
it all
put
the
a
time.
podcast on.
I do it all the time. I hate to say it, I don't listen to music as much as I used to. I listen to podcasts a lot. So hope everyone has a good week, and thanks for joining us here on the Performance Perceptions Talk Show. I'm Travis, and
I'm Dwight.
I'm Tyler. Man.
and thanks for having us.
Yep. Later on, dudes.